should I have one of these because it fits with the recruitment structure, and then not actually put any effort into actually turning it into a profit center. And that's what we did. We did a return on investment with all our consultants. We got some amazing data out of it, which allowed us to hire better in the future. I just think sometimes we're running a business and we can't see the wood for the trees. We're just trying to grow. But you're gonna pick up a lot of sticky shit along the way that you don't really need. And it's better to be, get those ergonomics right and get your business streamlined every so often, to the point that it just becomes a natural course for you to kind of purge and delete the shit you don't want.
I think the other thing as well that's really important with all of your suppliers, you should have an SLA. So if you've got an accountancy, you outsource any service and process, make sure you know exactly what you're getting for your cash, so that people actually live up to your expectations, because they're going to be saving costs internally and they might be saving and shaving costs as well. So if they're reducing heads that they've got working in your processes, making sure that you still get what you expect from them. So just by outsourcing finance, how quickly do you get your management accounts? How quickly are they chasing your debt? Are they letting your debt build up? So things like that are really important to you as well. But again, a pound saved isn't as good as a pound made. One of the things that came out of today's debate at the lunch was about how AI can help you make money, but it has to be geared towards bringing people towards making phone calls, right? So if all of that investment is helping you actually make more phone calls, then it's a good thing. What you say about phone call is down to you. What's your narrative? How are you being deliberately different? Are you being memorable? So if there isn't an opportunity at that moment, be it that it's 2 hours, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 quarters, 2 years time, they go, who was that person? Who was that guy? And I talk a lot about Backpage Gary, about how I became memorable and how that was a really important part of me being me growing, people liking me and being memorable. So that was very important. But also, it was all to do with how you make sure that people are doing what they should be doing on time, every time. So if someone's doing a sprint for you, do you know everyone at their 2-year mark, if they are doing a BD sprint, which is making calls, how many calls should they be making? How many of those calls should be coming back to you? So if you're dropping message bombs as opposed to just a boring, shitty, I'm another recruiter, give us a call back, you know you're going to get zero return of that investment. How do you get people? What's the right rate of response that you should be getting from people? So regardless of what happens in the marketplace, are you still a BD machine? So again, I think the right number, using from what we know of rec to rec, is 5 to 1. So if you spend 50 grand, you expect 250 grand back. If you spend 30 grand on someone, you expect 300 grand. Is that right? Yeah. So 50 grand is 600 grand. So you need to know what your numbers are. Whatever you're spending, it's 5 to 1 if you're putting an investment in place. But how quickly can you get a rookie up, running and productive? How long would you keep someone being shit or not doing deals? So how many people within your business at the moment are blanking consecutively, but you're still keeping them there? And what reason are you doing that? So I think that to create an environment of forever growth, it's all to do with, certainly from my perspective, how much money you're spending on marketing, what brand you're getting, what other suppliers that are helping into your process to give you forever growth, what their service level agreement is and how you're measuring that ROI. If you're investing any money into people, what rate of return are you getting off of those, and expecting a 5 to 1? How you're actually bringing all of that time. I'm not sure how many people today have really got their cadences right, given the toolkit of today. So if you guys are spending more money today in terms of your toolkit, is that having a massive impact in terms of the cadence you're expecting back from each activity? So if you're using something like Segna, a lot of people are managing to get 50 emails out, which are bespoke to the person, on points, very very personalized, but they managed to get 60 out in a 2-hour sprint. But nobody's actually measuring what good looks like. So when they're saying I'm doing emails for this sprint, what are they trying to get back from it? And what is the activity output from it? Is anybody measuring any of these things currently to a point where they think this is what good looks like? And so I think I've actually got a pretty decent business development machine, regardless of what's happening in the world around me. Or are they just saying, I'm going to get more CVs and just spec them because currently I'm not getting a great return from it. So I'm just going to do more of that. So I spoke to someone this morning who's got one of their recruiters who on the face of it, looks like they're brilliant. They're doing 161 sales calls a day at the moment. 161 outbound calls. He spent 28 minutes on the phone. Now, for me, there's something wrong there, and I wouldn't be accepting of that because obviously he's either making really shit calls with really shit data. He's either not, and it is a he before Kate gives me grief again. He's either got a really shit message that's not prompting any return call, or the energy and activity is just basically just bullshitting, and it's just, hello, just checking you're not looking for staff, thank you very much, bye. Or he's not trying to sell. So I really think the most important thing that I know that every time we went into any form of downturn market, S3 was really good at it, because we started to turn marketing as far up as we possibly could because everybody else was turning it down. And also we made sure that people weren't just trying to tick boxes, they were trying to make money, and making money was still good. So sales leagues, we know people's performance were being measured and measured against each other and across different parts of the business. However, whatever level of experience you're at, you can actually measure yourself in terms of inputs against other people in different parts of the business. And we made that so highly visible that people couldn't hide behind, it's really tough out there, if somebody else was really going at it. So all you need was one really good person, and you focused on them and their activity and what was possible across the other parts of the business. Now, again, I'm going to refer back to S3 a lot here, because that was the time that we went from being proper bottom of the league or Wigan and came out of it Man City, because we were measuring business against business, unit against unit, country against country, division against division. But it's really easy in a smaller business to have person against person, and you just need one good one to change everything in a business. So if someone's trying really hard and getting good results, look at the things that they're actually doing. And half the time it isn't against, most businesses don't have one person doing really well just because of one company. It's one person does really well because of their balanced activity. So in a perm market, just because you got one vacancy on doesn't mean you stop doing BD. Because in that sprint, you carry on doing BD for the full sprint to see how many vacancies you can do, because the minute someone gets into that rhythm and routine, they could get 5 or 6 because they're in the zone. And I might even be so bold as to say, carry on for the next 2 hours, because the next on perm, the first 2 hours is probably not going to make a massive amount of difference. But actually getting 5 or 6 perm opportunities on will, as long as they're all kind of similar and in a zone. If somebody within your business at the moment gets a perm job on, are they allowed to stop doing BD sprints? But I just really, this is not a leading question. I'm not saying you're right or wrong. Just like Spence, you happen to be top right of my screen. If someone gets a BD in a BD sprint and they get a perm job on, do they stop doing BD?
No, the simple answer is they don't. And especially if it's a retained or exclusive type gig and the urgency isn't there to start cracking the boards, no, they shouldn't really.
And if someone's only got, does everyone know that the Goldilocks number of how many perm jobs they should have on? Does that mean if they're below that, do they stop doing their daily BD stuff? Right, because these are the things that I think, as long as people don't get distracted by the fact they say that I've got 2 really live jobs on, I haven't got any exclusivity, I haven't got anything retained about them, but that is now going to take my priority. Is that acceptable across most businesses?
Yeah.
Does anybody else want to contribute to this? Because I want it to be kind of as open as possible.
Well, I'll jump in because you're talking about perm recruitment, so similar. So for us, no, you keep sprinting, because I think as soon as you stop, one wall for one encourages the whole bloody team to stop. What I would say, talking about your 161 calls guy in whatever time frame it was, everything we do with our guys, which I think helps, is there's so much AI now in terms of people getting automated hits. So the email marketing, you've got lots of companies now, robotics doing it, whatever. People are getting absolutely bombarded by this shit, even with the calling from all over the place. So I think you've got to be able to create a deficit in your calls. So you've got to be able to create something where, for me, the client you're dealing with feels like they want to work with you because there's almost an obligation because you've done something for them, whatever that is, getting them to join a WhatsApp group, sending them something that's going to be useful, inviting them to an event. As soon as you create that little bit of deficit where they feel like they owe something to you, I find you get an awful lot more buy-in, and it just changes the narrative from the straight sales call each time. So one thing that we've got our team working on is everyone's got to establish their own sort of products they can offer. I'm not talking about recruitment products, I'm talking about levels of debt. So send something out to them that's a certain budget that shows you've listened to them. It just set them apart from the AI stuff that's coming on. AI is brilliant, but it's also causing problems in different ways because there's so much of bombardment of sales activity. So the debt deficit model is working well for us, but on the sprint side, you just crack on. Otherwise, one wall for one, everyone bloody stops.
No, that massively helps. Hopefully there's a few people here who worked at S3 back in the day, and we used to collect people's football teams. So we used to know what football team somebody supported, what their favorite hobby was, something about them personally that we could use and leverage to set us apart. And one of the, I mentioned it yesterday, that the thing that Dean mentioned, I think is the best question that was asked all year, was when Dean asked, what's his face, Kendrick from Mercury, once all of the technology homogenizes, how will businesses set themselves apart? And he said relationships. And how do you establish a relationship with somebody where you don't really know them? And just finding out something about them. And I do think that we could use things like Segner to actually just do that, and or Elay, to find out what businesses are using, what business leaders are doing with their spare time, and then do something collectively to actually just put something out about that, to a bit an invitation to an event. I still think actually inviting people to football is still a good thing, but it's really hard to get people to actually buy into giving up their weekends to actually make that a thing. But even if it's just a book, Dean, what's his name? Is it James Blackwell?
Yeah.
The first day he met us, walked into that room and gave us both a book that he thought was appropriate to the pair of us. And do you know what? I still remember that to this moment. I thought, do you know what? If he's doing that, and he was a kid at the time, I thought that was really smart. So if anyone's going to get in front of a customer, or just a way to get in front of a customer, it's really, really cool. I mentioned it to Clark at PGC, and he ended up turning up with a pair of Air Force Ones in size 10 for me, thinking that's what I'd said to him. I thought was really impactful. Send him a left foot, and you might get a right foot if you get to meet me. So anything like that will make a massive difference in terms of being remembered. So is anybody else doing anything to be remembered? Because that stuff really helps.
There's one other thing you can do, which is free. I know everyone always talks about the way they approach a sales call, look at LinkedIn or whatever, find out something they've done or comment on something you can pick up so it shows like it's bespoke or whatever. But I'll take it a level further because it's a completely free thing to do. It's really powerful if you actually sometimes just do nothing. Let's say your post, Gary, about the trainer, which I saw on LinkedIn. Me sharing that post without any comment to you, but making a positive comment about your comment is really powerful. It'll make you wonder, who the hell is Nick? Oh, that's a really nice thing he's done. It builds your ego, right? So sometimes if you see a client you're targeting doing something, rather than before you even pitch them, sharing their post with something positive about this is how business should be done, or this is a great example of good leadership, or whatever it is you want to comment, it'll make them wonder who the hell you are. And it's a completely free way of getting your consultants to speak positively, create that deficit, albeit in a small way, using LinkedIn. And it's not about making an immediate sales approach saying, I saw you liked this and that's why I'm approaching you. It's almost, you're not asking for anything in that moment, but nearly every time you do that, they will always check out your profile, which warms up the lead when you do approach them a little bit later on. So I think there's some intelligent ways you can use social media by sharing stuff in a really positive way. It just plays on their egos. I find for us that works pretty well.
So I love that. So why don't we industrialize it? So again, let me refer back to S3. We had a team of Aussies that came over. If we found something that really worked, so collecting people's football team names or the thing that they wanted the most, we would get somebody to actually go through all of our customers that we previously worked with and currently work with and find out what they were into. Now, back in the day, we could go through their receptionist and find out what's his. We want to send him some tickets to an event. What's his favorite team, right? And that's the way we collect that data and then use that data to actually do something. If by just liking their posts would work, I would personally get someone, especially now because you got all the grads just leaving, trying to save up some money to do their round the world. Why won't we use some grads to actually just do that, to say, like all their posts and refer it through your own LinkedIn, as I've got someone doing all my LinkedIn stuff, right? So if you find something that works, make it one person's one job with absolute accountability to do something around that task. So if there's something that works with one person within your business, get someone to own that task and do it. Do not ask your recruiters to do this stuff, because they just don't. I mean, we know that specking works, and the most they'll do is send it one CV to 5 or 6 places. Whereas if we give it to someone in Kosovo, they send 600 or 700 people. So if you find something that works for you, make sure that everyone does it. One person does it, because everyone won't do it.
Sorry, just on that, you can get Elay to do a lot of that stuff, the liking of statuses and posts and things. It'd be quite helpful.
Well, we've got Mr. Elay in the room, but Spencer, could Elay do that stuff?
The honest answer is I'm not sure, because I'm not close enough to it yet. But yeah, I'm sure if Mehdi will do a demo. I feel good things.
Personally, I get graduates to do that stuff for us. We don't need people to do that stuff. Sorry, we don't need tech to do that stuff. We can get people to do it for us. I also think if you were to look around your sales team at the moment, are they good enough to be proper salespeople? Whereas previously, when they were basically getting CVs and specking them out and making money, are they good enough to build relationships these days? So if you want to take this seriously and build relationships, make sure that is one of the competencies that you hire upon. It's not just a nice to have. It's one of the basic core components to what you actually take people on for now. So if you create an environment where it's cool to be a decent salesperson, then it's cool to make money in this stuff. If something works, make sure you scale it up within everything that you do. So look at all the bits that are currently working for you, not the stuff that has worked in 2022, because it was easy to make money then. But if you look at the last 6 weeks or the last three months, give yourself an idea about exactly what it is that's helping you make money. So what is finding you more candidates? What is finding you more jobs? Pull it out and then decide whether you ask your recruiters to do more of it, or you give it to somebody else to be a task and then give it back to your recruiters and take a piece off their revenue to fund it. So don't you keep paying them for these things to make your recruiters do the same amount of revenue, get out, charge them for it across their commission, and give them back the opportunities and the jobs, give them back the candidates and the opportunities. Scale, scale, scale. Adapt to change super fast. So if you're finding that something isn't working that you were working with and was working with you previously, don't keep shouting at someone at the bar. So if you remember that when specking was working so super fast for you, but isn't now, don't just assume that doing more specking will give you exactly the same response that you were having previously. If something isn't working, it won't work even if you throw more money at it. Find something that is working for you and then scale that as quickly as possible. So adapt to change faster. And just be aware of this stuff. So making sure that you are collecting the right data as fast as you can. So find the things that work, make sure that you're giving people the cadence to say, if you're going to do that, this is what we expect in 2 hours. If it isn't working, change it to a new task and give it a skill, give it a level, give it a cadence that you want and an expected result from it. That's really important. And always look for improvements. So if things aren't working, but actually your recruiters are pushing back, it's okay that they push back. That's absolutely fine, as long as they've got something else that they want to do and measure them on the performance that they're getting back from it. So if they're saying that this tool is really important to me, I have to spend 2 hours doing this task, that's okay. I totally get that. What you're getting back from it and what can I expect back? So every time that someone does that as an activity, as a sprint, you know what exactly that you're expecting back from them. So it doesn't just drift off into an ether of just a faffery, and it becomes an occupational habit. Dean, is there anything you want to add to this?
Just, I mean, look, I think you nailed it, that you have to, and we talked about it yesterday, is it's great having tech and stuff, but if the market's tough and you just can't beat 360s banging on doors, doing special things, being memorable and being remarkable. I was just thinking, actually, you reminded me when I was at S3 and I went down to Pfizer. I couldn't get into the people I wanted to, but I got into the head of the secretarial pool who had contacts of everybody, and I'd got speaking to her. And one of the things I used to do is find out about them, you know, their birthday, what they did with their children, if they had children, all those types of things. And her son was a swimmer and he was 15. And I went and bought at the time the most expensive goggles I could afford, and took her down some Thornton's chocolates. And she was the one who actually walked me in to the head of resourcing for the whole of Pfizer, which I brought up to London for you to meet and take him out for lunch. So little things like that do work. I'm a big fan of those, finding out that data. But just in terms of the business, again, when you look at your business, look at your utilization, look at your costs of acquiring. We do loads of stuff. We spend on job boards. We never really examine where the return on investment is. And that's where you're going to get those efficiencies from. That everything in sales is a funnel. And if you can just narrow that down so it's not so wide, so you get to the point quicker, your business will be better. And I we had to do that very quickly and on scale. And I talk from experience, it works really, really well. Whether it's a good time or a bad time, but I just think if you're on top of your business, you won't have any really bad surprises. And I would say the businesses I've spoken to in the last 6 months that have had really some off periods that I've taken calls from, I think they've become detached from their businesses. They're not on their business enough to understand what they can turn off and what they can turn on and what they can turn up. So just be on your business.
I think it's also important to actually understand what your KPIs are today, what your performance conversion rates are today, what your spend is on marketing, what your spend is on candidate acquisition, client acquisition, and know those numbers inside out, so that every pound that you spend today, you actually understand where the benefit comes. Because I would dare say that you could probably all lose 10% of your sales staff and still make the same amount of revenue and be more profitable. You just need to know whether those people will be fit enough for purpose going forward. If it does, and it is getting slightly tougher. And I think a lot of people are holding their breath thinking, do you know what, they might come good. And the biggest regret that most businesses say is those people never get good. The people that come into your business, make sure that it's the business that you want it to be going forward. So you change what it is that you're hiring for, because I think in a tougher market, would you have hired those people going forward? So the hires that you made previously, would they be the same people going forward? Sorry, Nick.
Yeah, I was going to say something we did recently. I think I messaged you about it, Gary, which was a bit of an experiment for us. But he's a good friend of mine, but he's an ex-HR director, found himself made redundant. So we brought him into our business, sat in a room, and I got the whole sales team to pitch to him on LinkedIn, email. He did Zoom interviews with everyone. He did face-to-face interviews over 2 days. Really interesting feedback. He did a full report. But sometimes as a manager, director, whatever, we think everyone's got a consistent approach to sales. And actually what came back was a real lack of consistency. They've all done the Trevor Pinder training. So I thought there'd be pretty, some clarity in how everyone was approaching him. And also it was interesting for us because he's getting pitched by recruiters 24/7 as an HRD at Biffa he was before. So he knows what people are pitching. He knows all the different games that people are playing, setting things to do, whatever. So I thought that'd be quite interesting. So we brought him in and he gave me a full report on the lack of consistency across my consultants in the messaging, in their understanding of our products, in the way they approached him, those that gave a follow-up, those that didn't. Really quite remarkable. And I think sometimes there's a risk that we'll think people are doing things because we look at the stats only, or we've told them. But in reality, when it comes to approaching particularly senior people, it all falls apart. So for us, that was a really, really interesting exercise that's given us some really valuable feedback that we can now, and you don't want to script consult, we don't want to script our consultants, but we do want to make sure they're consistent in understanding what we offer, whether it's Greenify or something else. So I think there's if you're trying to grow and continue to scale, it's really important that the newbies coming in, or the people we're training, or even those that are training others, have some clarity on what it is we're pitching and that we're confident in the way they do it.
I really love that. Yeah, we did. I was desperate for people to go in front of customer, so I had everyone had to pitch my business to me. And you're right, it was shockingly, painfully disappointed. And I also, when we launched the whole thing, right, aim for the stars, you might touch the sky, and the whole product piece, it was quite funny how Henry Keys repeatedly tells me how they use all the boxes, the brochures that we had beautifully printed for them. They use them as goalposts for the internal goal football pitch, and never, ever, ever use them because they just refused to do it. And I thought I ran a pretty tight ship. So it was quite interesting that some people just wanted to do it the way that was working for them. And we thought the market had moved. So yeah, that's really interesting. We never get it right. Has anybody else got any points before we kind of wrap this up? And I do think we will revisit this repeatedly about forever growth. But is there anything else that anybody else wants to talk about?
No,
Dean, final word.
All good from me, thank you. No, I'll say it's all good now.
Yeah, no, I'm all good. I think everyone's low blood sugar. That's what it is.
Right, peace and love, everybody. Have a lovely weekend. Speak to you soon.
See everybody. Have a nice weekend. See you later.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Bye.